Welcome back to the polls. With us now here are two representatives of the youth organization, the Youth Voice of Nevada. And folks, everyone, thank you for coming. And what's your names and position?
Thank you for having us. My name is Hirome Peña Martinez, and I am the statewide president of the Youth Voice of Nevada.
Thank you for inviting us to your program. My name is Nathaniel Adam. I am the vice president of Youth Voice of Nevada.
Thank you for being here. So, what is the Youth Voice of Nevada? Give our viewers some insights.
So, Youth Voice of Nevada is an organization that focuses on youth, especially empowering youth and getting them to participate in our democracy. We give youth resources, we give them information to make sure that they're not only just making informed decisions, but know that they're making the decisions that they feel is right to them, that they are able to make decisions to elect people that represent them for who they are.
From young people you've been engaged with, what is the atmosphere out there, or what is your sense of how they are feeling on matters of immigration, attacks on students' rights to protest, attack on diversity or DEI, mass shootings at schools and public places?
Young people are fed up. We're experiencing a lot of frustration with our elected leaders because they're not responding to our needs and wants. Our community is made up of immigrants, and we are their children. And our elected leaders really haven't stepped up to support, and that's what Youth Voice was created to address.
Yeah, that's right. Because I find it so laughable, and there's kind of a double standard there about like trying to suppress students' right to protest, because it's kind of like America is like this bastion of freedom or free speech advocacy, and then they like to call out as in America's enemies as like yeah, look at them, look at what they're doing to protesters, look what they're doing to student activists, and yet like the same goes for here. It's kind of like America's so-called enemy. It's like, hey, America, look at you. Look at what you're doing to these student activists. So, it's kind of like there's a lot of irony there. So anyways, this is a two-part question. Has the Youth Voice of Nevada been engaged in reaching out to state officials like Assembly and Senate to propose laws for the safety and daily living of everyday youth across the state? Had there been any success or failures in your efforts?
I would definitely say that we've had a lot of successes, especially with Senate Bill 156 during the 2025 legislative session. That bill was brought in to establish the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, something that us as students and youth care about a lot. Many of us in the Youth Voice of Nevada were victims of the 2023 December 6th shooting at UNLV. A lot of us were on campus attending a political event, and some of us were just in class, unaware that something like that was going to happen. Because you don't think that it's ever going to happen to you until it does.
Yeah.
And so that bill was something that we created alongside Make Thorough Nevada and Senator Flores in order to bring not just awareness, but find solutions to prevent gun violence. Because our students, our youth, should not be victims of gun violence. Not only that, even though it didn't get signed by the governor and it was in fact vetoed, we are planning on bringing this bill back and making sure that it passes this time.
Yeah, I remember when the shooting made national headlines, and it was like all over cable networks of the tragedy. And so I'm very sorry that you all were a part of this shooting. So what is the position of the Youth Voice of Nevada on matters like affordable housing, environment conservation, public transportation, and student debt?
Housing prices in town have gotten so high that things are just unaffordable for the average person. If you aren't already in the market, if you don't already own a home, it's impossible to get in, and now young people are going to become lifetime renters because we just don't have that opportunity.
Especially living in a place like Nevada and Las Vegas, we're still ever so expanding, so it becomes difficult to purchase a home. And affordable housing is such a big issue here. Rents increasing, house prices are going higher. It makes it really difficult for us to even move out at the age that many of our parents did. It
Yeah.
makes it hard for us to live on minimum wage, considering that minimum wage here in the state of Nevada is around $12.
Mm-hmm.
Someone like us, youth, cannot live on a minimum wage of $12.
Yeah.
At most, you're making approximately $1,400 a month, and your rent average is approximately going to be like $1,000 or more dollars.
Yeah, because it's like, we're witnessing some deregulation policies that some elected officials here in this state are actually allowing people to massively develop, houses or any other places in the middle of some conservationist friendly environment type of places that are not even supposed to be, built there in the first place. Yeah, and like, I even hear some, accusations that like, the realtors are actually doing some bidding on houses, knowing that there's people like states like California and New York where the prices there are really high, and they're trying to price them right there, knowing that people are going to be moving there, and so they compete with high prices doing the bidding, and then whoever wins the bid, they just, put the price in there, and they just do some, I would call it probably like a kickback to their competitors who are like actually friends inside the curtain that probably no one talks about. So
And not only that, as youth, we're definitely going to see an increase in student debt. With the passing of the Big Beautiful Bill, in order to qualify as a full-time student, we have to take 15 credit hours, which means that many of us are going to have to pick up an extra class in order to be full-time. Before that, all you needed to take was 12 credit hours to be a full-time student. So you're not only adding another course to your course load, but that's going to take up time, which many people do not have, which is why they tend to only take 4 classes in order to be qualified as full-time. So having to take another class means that it kind of affects their ability in order to qualify for Pell, in order to qualify for that government assistance that they need in order to receive their education. So not only are we as youth facing the impact of the beautiful bill, we're going to see it affect many of our community members, not just youth.
yeah, and I know that you know school campuses are like in the middle of like where RTC buses and bus like stops are within the areas. So I want to know what your probably takes and comments, because I know most students they drive, sometimes they take Uber or Lyft, and others just take the RTC bus, and which mostly people who don't have cars rely on public transportation. So do you have any take regarding those issues?
Yeah, RTC I've actually been working with recently is doing a Maryland Bus Rapid Transit project in which they're going to be expanding bus routes and service on the Maryland corridor, specifically the 109 bus. And hopefully with that increased service, a lot more students can live in the area and be able to get around town without having to use a car and can rely on public transportation in the valley.
Yeah, because I know that like people in today's decade, when I mean the generations of like the alpha generation, the generation Z, the millennials also, that they're going to be picking up of like what previous generations did to them years ago, that really led to why today's generations are suffering from. When I mean like the previous generations, because they always talk about boomers did this, did that. It's not just them, even like silent generation, greatest generation also did this mess in that decade, that boomers are also being pointed at with these things like what the of course you probably know like how in the 80s when Reagan proposed the student debt crisis, in order to minimize people from going to universities, and as a way to stop activists from going to campuses. As you probably know, we're already in the 50 years since the end of the Vietnam War, and how student campuses are also being used, to as a center for protests. And the I think, I don't know, one of Reagan's guys, he said something that we're witnessing I call it the educated proletariat rising, and I forgot what he said, but it was somewhere along with that line about educated proletariat, when you mean like working class people like you, and it to them it was like a dangerous threat. So that's kind of one of the reasons that I think a lot of more people are talking about it. Even youth organizations are even talking about it. I've seen some Instagram stories like people are talking about it, and so you know, I like what you're doing here at Youth Voice, fighting for that. So, what vital role will youth organizations like the Youth Voice of Nevada would play on students and the entire youth on getting active and registering people to vote on the 2026 midterms?
So we're planning on collaborating with other organizations such as Babe Vote and hosting like voter registration drives, hosting events where youth can come in and register to vote and also have fun. So not only are we creating a fun atmosphere, but we're also teaching them and informing them and registering them to vote.
Yeah, because during the 2024 presidential cycle, I know there were a lot of excitements and there were a lot of downs because there were a lot of issues that needed to be addressed. And there was a lot of when Joe Biden handed the bid to Kamala Harris, and then there were of course lots of excitements. And then of course people didn't like the fact that there were downplays, especially in issues with regarding housing, the Palestinians being killed in Gaza, and then of course there was not enough a lot of issues to address that some youth didn't get pleased about, I would say. And then of course the election didn't go exactly as where I wanted to go. And of course we're witnessing like a where the youth now are getting more active than ever in with this activism thing, and getting out more people to vote. So anyway, we're out of time. Any last words from you?
As a youth leader and youth activist, I want to push other youth to get out there, register to vote, participate, because even participating and advocating for yourself or even advocating for your community can really make a big difference.
And we at Youth Voice of Nevada really do want your support and for you to come to events like ours so that we can work together and build a state that fights for young people and a state that represents our issues.
We will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you for being here at The Pulse. And to our viewers, join us again next week. I am Joe Buban. Thank you for watching.
And I'm Sam Buban. God bless your week.